The moment I heard my name read out loud at the all hands, I knew this wasn't a restructuring, it was a hit job. Quinn Harper, Director of Systems Integrity. No eye contact. No explanation, just my name. Like a bullet fired into a crowd. I stood, walked to the front of the auditorium in Boulder, Colorado, and placed my employee badge beside the COO's clicker. The plastic made a soft sound against the stage. The kind of sound that should have meant nothing. But they'd just fired the wrong person. I turned and walked out without a word. No slamming doors, no dramatic exits, because I didn't need to raise my voice. I was the infrastructure. It started a week earlier with a phone call from a catering company. "Hi, is Quinn Harper attending the executive offsite in Estes Park?" she asked. I paused. "What offsite?" she stammered, made up something about it being only for senior leadership, and hung up like I'd asked for state secrets. That was the first sign. They were making moves. Quiet ones. Behind closed doors and NDA-soaked whisper campaigns. I'd been with Core Path Solutions for 11 years. I wasn't the face of the company. I wasn't at happy hours, didn't post team selfies, and I didn't play the corporate ladder game. I just made things run. Contracts, domains, DNS, infrastructure. All the unsexy, invisible stuff that makes a company function. While they gave out awards for most collaborative, I was stitching together the tech that kept our platform from collapsing. Then I was ghosted. Slowly, strategically. Jax, my manager, stopped nodding in the hallway. The vendor emails I usually got rerouted. A few invites disappeared from my calendar. I wasn't even asked to secure the VPN for their fancy offsite, which they were using in the woods. I knew something was wrong. What they didn't know. I still held every single administrative skeleton key. 3 years earlier, during a messy acquisition of a smaller tech firm, I'd been made temporary trust administrator over everything. A move designed to streamline domain and vendor transitions. Temporary. That was 4 years ago. No one ever reassigned the role. Too much red tape. Too many assumptions. So when I saw someone from legal poking through my access logs, and a junior engineer trying to flag my credentials, I knew the coup was underway. They were trying to replace me. Quietly. What they didn't understand is that I never left. 10:57 a.m., the all-hands calendar update popped up. Business casual, main hall, no agenda. Translation, someone's getting cut. The email was from people operations instead of HR. That's when you know it's bad. I walked past Jax's desk. He typed harder when he saw me, like that would erase the guilt. Then came the speech. COO Barrett Knox, a buzzword machine in loafers. He called it a realignment of operational excellence. Then he started reading names. Slowly. Methodically, each name was a gunshot in a locked room. When he got to mine, he didn't even pause. That was his second mistake. Back at my house, I opened the fireproof drawer in my garage. Inside was a folder. Yellowed edges. Labeled. Operations Trust Core Path Consolidation. Signed, sealed, notarized in 2019 by Core Path's legal counsel, and stamped under Colorado law. The trust clause was ironclad. Custodial authority for digital infrastructure remains with the named administrator unless reassigned with 30-day written notice and dual signature. Guess who was still named? Not Barrett. Not legal. Me. At 9:13 the next morning, I made my first move. A simple call to Arden Secure, our DNS and domain vendor. The rep, Kyle, hesitated when I gave him my ID. I think your access was revoked. Incorrect, I said calmly. I remain the legal trustee of the Core Path operations infrastructure. No reassignment notice was issued. Any attempt to bypass this constitutes breach. He put me on a brief hold. Then, understood, Miss Harper, we'll flag all third-party delegation attempts. No changes without your signature. Good. Flag them as hostile. Within hours, chaos began to ripple. Slack messages stopped syncing. Internal dashboards failed to load. QA tools crashed. Their world started to tilt. Still, they said nothing. They believed they'd removed me. But I was inside the walls. At 2:00 p.m., a junior engineer named Bryce tried to spoof credentials through a legacy service account. The system flagged it as a hostile takeover attempt. Then the message came from someone in DevOps. Is Quinn doing this? No one responded. Then Barrett wrote, she's gone, we've reset everything. Gone? They didn't understand. I wasn't gone. I was the entire blueprint they were standing on. And they just tried to replace me with Marcus Blake, a shiny-hair COO import from a collapsed crypto startup. The same man who once asked if DNS meant direct network system. That was the guy they handed the crown to. I hovered over the DNS routing toggle in Ardent Secure's console. The final layer of control. Then I clicked. Status, domain routing set to external hold. Primary email servers suspended. No emails would go out. No apps would load. No customers could log in. From the outside, the lights were still on. But inside, the wiring was toast. I made tea, chamomile, for funerals. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. A screenshot from Erica Day, Director of Compliance. We'd worked together quietly for years. She was no ally, but she was smart. The screenshot was of an internal Slack post. Who revoked domain access? Call legal. Now. That was the sound of a corporate body realizing it was bleeding out. And the blade, they'd left it in my hands. By 11:20 a.m., CorePath's digital veins were clotting. The company's lifeblood, data, access, communications froze in place. And yet no one had called me. Not Jax, not Barrett, not even legal. Then my burner phone rang. Unknown number. That always means one of two things. Spam or someone finally realizing the building's on fire and they forgot who holds the extinguisher. Quinn, it's Alan Mayers from legal. His voice trembled like he'd just run a marathon made entirely of bad decisions. Are you aware, that routing control has been suspended? I'm aware, I replied, sipping lukewarm tea. You breached the trust agreement. Section 14, paragraph 3, you voided your own access the second you tried to reroute control without my authorization. Silence. Then a whisper, can we undo this? I didn't laugh, I didn't gloat. I just said, you already did this. The system responded accordingly. Inside the building, Chaos, my old Slack account, still technically active on their bridge invites, lit up. Web app down, client onboarding stuck, compliance deadlines failing, but the most delicious message, from Erica, Barrett just asked if DNS can run locally. Let that sink in. The COO didn't know DNS is the reason your website even exists. You can't run it locally, Barrett. That's like trying to localhost gravity. Meanwhile, Marcus, our finance bro turned ops head, suggested buying a new domain and starting over on AWS. With no routing plan, no SSL keys, no vendor contacts. They were trying to rewire a jet engine mid-flight using IKEA instructions printed in Braille. At 4:00 p.m., the emergency board meeting started. Summoned, not scheduled. That's when you know the scent of blood is real. Diane Whitmore, board chair, ran the meeting. Silver hair, diamond gaze, no time for incompetence. She started by reading from the email I'd sent at 11:12 a.m., minutes after my public firing. Per Clause 14 of the trust agreement, I have executed custodial revocation. You have 72 hours to reassign or go dark. Dead silence in the room. Deanne tapped her tablet. The projector screen displayed the clause. Vacation, reassignment, or override of said authority without proper termination protocols, including 30-day escrow and written consent, shall constitute breach of trust agreement. Alan Mayers, legal counsel, turned white. Travis, the CEO, whispered, we thought it was temporary. Diane didn't flinch. Temporary doesn't last 4 years, Travis. Then the final blow. Unless Quinn Harper consents, the infrastructure is no longer legally yours. Nobody moved. Nobody dared say my name. I watched hummingbirds dart over the fence. Sipped my wine. My phone buzzed with forwarded screenshots from Erica. An internal email had just gone out. All future infrastructure delegation must pass through legal. Previous trust model deemed high risk. Below that, a Slack comment from someone I didn't even know. Wait, who was Quinn Harper? I smiled. Exactly. They didn't know. Because I never asked to be seen. I only asked for systems that worked. But when the walls cracked, they remembered me not as a person, as the silence that followed the lights going out. The next morning, I woke to the sound of an email notification pinging through one of my personal aliases, the kind I hadn't used in years. Subject: Urgent request from the board. I didn't need to open it to know who it was from. But curiosity's a dangerous thrill when you already own the detonator. It was from Diane Whitmore herself. The woman who'd kept calm while everyone else at CorePath scrambled like toddlers trying to put out a grease fire with milk. Miss Harper, the board would like to discuss a path to resolution. Please respond before noon. This is not a demand, it's a negotiation. Interesting phrasing. Not a demand. They were learning, at least. I almost felt flattered. I let it sit for an hour, made coffee, fed my cat, checked the Oxwell console. Everything was still in hold status. Then, like clockwork, my phone buzzed again. Another email, not from Diane this time. From Barrett Knox, the COO who'd fired me on stage. Quinn, I know things got messy. Let's talk. There's a way to make this right for both of us, for both of us. He used to say that in meetings, too. For both of us was Barrett speak for you do the work, I take the credit. So I wrote back a single line. We don't share a side anymore, Barrett. By 10 a.m., it wasn't just internal chaos anymore. Word had gotten out. Someone leaked the trust clause to investors. Maybe Erica. Maybe someone in legal. Maybe even a scared board member trying to cover themselves. Didn't matter. It was everywhere, screenshots circulating on Slack, Reddit, even a tweet that said, Tech CEO fires IT director without realizing she legally owns the company's entire digital infrastructure. Popcorn time. By noon, 3 tech journalists had emailed me. I didn't reply, but I did read their subject lines. My favorite. The ghost in the server, the woman who took her company offline. I chuckled. Not bad, actually. Through my network of former engineers, I got play-by-play updates. Marcus had resigned via Slack. Legal had brought in outside counsel. And Barrett, he was panicking. Apparently, he'd tried to bypass Oxwell entirely by creating a shadow domain to reroute client traffic. But he didn't realize the old DNS trust was tied to the company's trademark registration. That meant his new shadow domain triggered an automatic legal flag to me, because I was still the trustee of record. I received the notification before anyone else. Violation of digital custodial agreement, initiating escrow lock, and just like that, Barrett's secret recovery plan died on the vine. Then just before 4:00 p.m., my phone rang again. Diane this time, she didn't waste words. Miss Harper, she said, her tone precise and low, this company is about to collapse under its own arrogance. You know that? Yes, I said, that's why I left before it fell. I'm not asking you to come back, she said. I'm asking what you want. Finally, honesty. For a second, I considered it, the power to name my price. The poetic justice of watching them grovel for access to systems they once dismissed as non-core. But I wasn't after money. I wanted accountability. I'll tell you what I want, I said. A public apology from Barrett and Jax. And an acknowledgement that this entire collapse happened because they tried to erase the people who built their foundation. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, That's negotiable. While the board debated how to handle me, someone else decided to go rogue. Barrett sent a private message to my old team from his personal Gmail. If anyone has Quinn's old credentials, now's the time to share them. We can't stay down much longer. He didn't realize one of those engineers, Dev, a kid I'd trained fresh out of college, was still loyal to me. Dev forwarded the email. I didn't respond, not yet. But that night I logged into my private system and created a new user key. A ghost credential, not tied to me, not traceable. It had one purpose: to monitor everything Barrett touched from that moment on, and at 11:57 p.m. the system pinged. He was trying to create a parallel login. It failed, then failed again, then again. Each time, the audit log echoed back a single phrase: access denied by original custodian authority. By sunrise, I'd watch them dig themselves into a deeper grave than I ever could have dug for them. The irony. I hadn't destroyed anything. They'd done it themselves. All I did was stop cleaning up their mess. I knew Barrett wouldn't stop. People like him never accept silence as the final answer. They think there's always a workaround, some trick, some shortcut, someone they can buy to make the problem vanish. But I wasn't a problem. I was a consequence. At 2:43 a.m., while the rest of Boulder slept, I got a ping from my off-grid security protocol. A breach attempt, not from Core Path Systems. This was personal. Someone had tried to access one of my private backup servers using a brute force login script, 10,000 failed attempts in under 3 minutes. Sloppy, desperate. The IP was masked through a VPN, but it bounced off an old CorePath internal node before reaching me. That's how I knew where it came from. They didn't just fire me. They tried to hack me. The next morning, I got a call from Dev. Barrett hired a contractor, he whispered. Some guy out of Phoenix. They paid him through a third-party shell account. My teeth clenched. For what? To get your credentials or root passwords. Anything that could give them control. That was the third mistake. They thought this was still about systems. They didn't realize it had become personal. Meanwhile, the board was fracturing. Diane tried to keep them focused, but the vultures were circling. Two senior VPs had already jumped ship, fearing SEC fallout. Internal emails leaked, showing Barrett had knowingly bypassed standard protocol to rush my termination. Worse, it turns out the merger paperwork, the one I'd kept in my locked cabinet, was never uploaded to the company's master compliance archive, which meant all the protections and access I still had were technically undocumented, legally binding, but invisible to their systems. The infrastructure belonged to me. The paper trail belonged to no one. At 1:12 p.m., Erica called me from her personal number. "Quinn," she said, "they're trying to pin the collapse on you." "Of course they are. They're leaking rumors, saying you planned this. That you sabotaged the company because you were bitter." I stayed quiet, let her fill the silence. "Diane's pushing back," she added, "but she's alone, the others are scared." "They should be," I said flatly. "This isn't sabotage. It's exposure," Erica sighed. "They want you to come to the next board meeting." "Do they want me to fix it?" "No, they want to contain you." That night I updated my LinkedIn. No rants, no shade, just one sentence in my bio. Sometimes the quietest person in the room owns the power grid. By morning, it had 45,000 likes. 4 recruiters reached out. 2 VC firms messaged me asking if I'd be interested in consulting. But the best part? A message from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. A former CTO. The one who'd signed the trust document with me 4 years ago. He'd left CorePath after a drone scandal and a very public divorce. His message was simple. "Barrett forgot who rewired the bones. If you need backup, I still have the blueprints." "Oh, Barrett, you're about to learn what happens when you burn bridges that are still under warranty." They asked me to attend the emergency board meeting in person. I said no. Instead, I sent a calendar invite titled, "Custodial Dispute Resolution Evidence Review Location. Virtual time, 3:00 p.m. duration. 20 minutes. I wouldn't need more." At 2:59, I logged into the board's secure video platform using an admin pass that hadn't been revoked, because they didn't even know it existed. I kept my video off, audio muted. I watched the board file in one by one, Diane looking tense, Alan from legal visibly sweating, Barrett pacing in the background, barking into his phone. The second it hit 3:00 p.m., I unmuted. "Good afternoon, everyone." They froze, even Barrett. Diane recovered first. "Quinn, thank you for joining. We're hoping—" "No need for hope," I interrupted. "This isn't a negotiation. This is notice of execution." I shared my screen. Slide 1. A PDF scan of the original trust document, notarized, signed, timestamped, verified. Slide 2. A log of every unauthorized attempt to revoke my admin access. Slide 3. A packet of emails showing Barrett authorized a hack attempt, along with contractor payment records, masked but traceable. Then came the final slide. Slide 4. The clause Barrett never read. Hidden on page 7 of the trust agreement. Buried under boilerplate. If custodial breach attempts are detected, all secondary keys shall be revoked and replaced at sole discretion of trustee. I looked up. "Barrett," I said, "you didn't just lose access, you voided every contingency fallback." His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "I didn't. You tried to hack the person who built your digital heart. You failed. But you also triggered something worse." I hit enter. A new screen shared, the Oxwell console. I clicked one button. "Revoke all BACKUPS," the interface blinked. Then confirmed. "All secondary admin credentials purged." Barrett lunged toward the camera. "You can't do that. This is sabotage." "No," Diane cut in coldly. "This is enforcement." Then she turned to me. "What do you want, Miss Harper?" I let the silence linger. Then, "Barrett's resignation, public today." Barrett turned red. "This is a bluff." I smiled, then dropped the final hammer. A video. From the Phoenix contractor Barrett had hired. Sent to me earlier that morning, part confession, part cover-your-ass move. "Yeah, Barrett said it was cool, just get the logins and wipe whatever. Said legal was on board." Barrett's face drained to gray. I ended the share screen. This recording's already in the hands of your compliance team, I said. And the SEC. Diane didn't even hesitate. Barrett Knox, you are terminated effective immediately. Allen, begin formal proceedings. Barrett screamed something. Diane muted him like he was just another broken cog. I logged out. Barrett's resignation made headlines the next morning. COO fired after attempted internal hack. Whistleblower exposes infrastructure coup. Erica forwarded me the internal announcement. We acknowledge the error in terminating Miss Harper and the consequences that followed. Her actions prevented greater damage. We are grateful she acted with integrity. They called me a guardian. Not quite. I wasn't guarding them. I was guarding the truth. CorePath is still recovering. Barrett, blacklisted. The contractor, facing charges. Curtis, quietly let go. They tried to replace the skeleton without checking who still owned the bones. And me, I never returned. I moved to Missoula, Montana, bought a cabin. I consult now quietly on my terms. No HR slide decks, no catered offsites, just systems, clean and secure. One night while walking through the snow, I passed a kid wearing a hoodie that said, "The quiet one built the whole damn system." He didn't recognize me. I didn't stop him, because I don't need to be seen. I am the silence that holds everything up. And when the people in power forget that, well, let's just say the next click might not be so gentle. If you loved this story, tap like and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, what's the worst betrayal you've ever seen in a workplace?